What do you do to get rid of stress? Spider Master said, exercise. I always feel better after some cardio or lifting weights. Listening to music that makes me feel something, either heavy metal or emotional meaningful music. Doing something fun, playing with my dog, going to the movies with my wife, etc. Odin said, the problem I have is that generally I'm only ever stressed about shit I know there is nothing to be stressed about. Like a fucking dentist appointment. I am perfectly aware there is nothing to be afraid of, and that when I am there I am perfectly comfortable. Still inexplicably the day before it stresses me out. I only get stressed about the most stupid shit imaginable. One Zinger 79 said, I ask for my grandkids for the day. Those children crack me up. And they keep me so busy, there isn't time to think, let alone take a pee lol. Edit, thank you for the awards. I'd like to say thanks to my grandbabes and I owe it all to them, the little awards. If you are ever stressed out and get a chance to hang with some little kids, do it. Simply have a conversation with them. They will have ya laughing in no time. Kids are great and it's good reminder, not to take anything so seriously. Nope 99,998,765 said, I love playing a lot of different games online, but one thing I have noticed is that, depending on the game and group, kids are frequently more friendly, willing to learn, and a lot of times they have patience that the elitists don't. I'm sure I will be called a pedo like I have before, but I honestly prefer to play with younger kids online because they are often the most thrilled when we can successfully clear a stage encounter, and they are usually the most casual in the way they play. Goofing off in a custom lobby, in almost any game, with the younger kids who don't take it seriously is a lot of fun. I have taught the Leviathan to multiple groups of 12-year-olds, and each time the lobby would be filled with cheering, screeching when we completed lol. One Zinger 79 said, I didn't get one Pedro vibe off that. I have a 13-year-old and he has one adult friend he plays with. I get the impression the guy is like 18 or 19. But they have legit conversations about the level they are on, calling each bro and laughing. I of course listen in and make sure it's all kosher. But it's the same way you all are describing it, the cheering and shit when they do good. I'm just a mom and don't know jack about the games he's playing to give more detail to my comment lol. Keep on doing it. You aren't the only one playing vid games with kids. Edit, downvote me if you want to, but I'm sure 9 out of 10 of you have either sat next to a kid and played vid games with them, or played online. Even I have. Life goes on. Funny how 1 minute I'm getting awards over grandkids and downvoted over vid games and kids. SMH. The internet is so weird. Impending Wardrobe said, look up Dr. David Burns in The Deaths of the Self. The basic premise is that when you let go of the idea that you have to be special, that you have to be perfect, that you have to assign blame for everything that happens in your life, etc., you cut out the root of most of your anxiety. It's incredibly freeing. A friend of mine has tattooed on his arm, I am a 10 and will always be a 10. I am a 0 and have nothing to lose. I've spent some time trying to understand it, and the more I get it, the less things bother me. APR0N said, haha. Your question had impeccable timing. Lately I've been taking stock of what relaxes me, and what I should consider relaxing. What I've found is it's the simplest things that relax me, or should, if I think about it in the proper context. Another example, sitting and actively listening to music. I don't do anything else, fold laundry, cook, clean, etc. I give the music my undivided attention. All my worries tend to melt away. Riffler said, take a walk and think about what's stressing me. It seems counterintuitive to think about the very thing that's causing stress, but for me it helps to understand why I'm stressed and what I can realistically do about it. Let's say that I'm stressed about an interview. I like to walk through the steps and create a short plan on what to say if I'm asked X question. Sometimes I can't do anything, and so I try to realize that I don't have to be so stressed because the situation isn't as bad as I originally thought. The key part is to do a task while you think about what's stressing you, like taking a walk. If you just sit in your bed, you will at worst get more stressed and at best still be stressed. This doesn't work for everyone, as everyone has different ways to calm down, but for me it works wonders. Jamie Singh said, right now cosplaying on TikTok helps a lot. I don't care how cringy it is, that app kept me sane through 2020 and most of 2021. I've even expanded my cosplays now. Just started doing Pamela Voorhees and the goth version of Marilyn Munster. Music helps too. Barry Manilow has this album called 2 AM Paradise Cafe. When things are really bad, I just lock myself in my room, put it on, and let it play all the way through to the end. Sometimes I end up so relaxed I fall asleep while it plays and wake up feeling much better. Jamie Singh Sato-Eid Solzi said, "Hold my kebab. Most of my life I had positive approach to life. The older you get, the easier it is. My best advice to friends is, what's the point to stress? Worry won't resolve anything. Different people deal with situations differently and everyone has different stress tolerance. Some people get into state to get shit done, so there is healthy stress, if we can call it. Gym is my sanctuary. I find myself with zero thoughts. Update, whatever it is, it already happened. Think of solution and things that would help you to overcome it, make situation better. Don't waste energy stressing about it. Not talking about deep traumas. Right now cosplaying on TikTok helps a lot. I don't care how cringy it is, that app kept me sane through 2020 and most of 2021. I've even expanded my cosplays now. Just started doing Pamela Voorhees and the goth version of Marilyn Munster. Music helps too. Barry Manilow has this album called 2 AM Paradise Cafe. When things are really bad, I just lock myself in my room, put it on, and let it play all the way through to the end. Sometimes I end up so relaxed I fall asleep while it plays and wake up feeling much better." The Fallen Polish said, "Had my boss asked me that when I was working at a restaurant. I told him that I kill people and enjoy it. He looked at me horrified, then I explained that I play airsoft, so every weekend I go to a game to dump my magazines at the enemy, run around in the forest and stab at people with my bayonet. That relieved my stress accumulated during the week from the annoying customers and the service. When I shown him my loadout, he said that he'll keep in mind to not stress me too much so I don't start killing for real." Sybil Cut said, "Practice mindfulness. Does it eliminate the stress? No, but it's a coping mechanism. I step back from the stress and ask myself what about it bothers me, and I take the chance to really absorb it as a very human function. Don't let it own you while it's there. Just spend your time with the stress and really feel it, analyze it. Think about how it feels in your gut. What physiological effects is it giving you? Your central nervous system is responding to ideas in your brain. What is it that is really bugging you and causing you that stress, and why does it do what it does to you? Then, what does a more healthy you look like? What stands between where you are and a you that isn't stressed out?" Sybil Cut said, "A lot of the time, once you really think about your stress, rather than just letting it take the wheel, at least personally I find I'm in a position where I could ostensibly try and willpower my way out of whatever funk I'm in. Oftentimes though, I don't actually want to, because whatever stress I have is there for a reason and I want to think about those reasons, however stressful, and learn what I need to learn from them. That part though is not easy, because quite frankly you're in a fight with your brain as to whether you want to exist within the confines of your stress or whether you want to exist outside of it and see it for what it is, your thoughts needing management. And remember, this isn't something that you will do immediately. You might feel like you have an issue handled and it right back at you later as though you never gave it a thought. It can be demoralizing. But that mindfulness that got you through it the first time will get you through it the next times too, and the same lessons you repeat to yourself, you will internalize and you will be able to remind yourself of them when you need it. Not sure who is sorting by new, but I hope this helps somebody out there." Makabin Lalo said, "I write research papers and essays on interesting topics. It fascinates me and forces me to focus in order to create a work that is coherent and interesting, which then allows me to feel a sense of accomplishment in something that I produced. I think stress often stems from a lack of accomplishment because that is essentially why we stress so often. There is something that needs to be done and we don't know how or when to do it. Of course this only works if you are interested in learning about abstract topics and putting ideas together in a form of a paper, which, you'll be surprised, is more common than one would think." Goxigand said, "I have a ritual where I visit a beach that's near my home. During my way there I gaze at the surrounding nature while focusing on my breath. Once I arrive, I just lay down on the sand, take deep breaths and occasionally close my eyes. This really helps clearing my mind and calming me down. I don't have to think about anything, I just breathe and focus on the sounds I hear. After my 10-30-minute session, my mind is completely pure, optimistic, all the mental functions work properly and I feel a high that lasts up to half an hour. Yelto Thorpe said, "If I've had a really bad day then playing single-player GTA helps. I whack a few cheats on there and either blow up everything I see or get creative with trick shots. Another bonus of GTA is the vast amount of differing NPCs, so if a specific person has been the source of my stress I search out NPCs who look like them and then again I get creative with how I kill them. Other days I'll play Factorio or some other puzzly type game as I can quickly get lost in the game working out what I need to do and so forget about the day." Danny Stormborn 333 said, "I crochet. While listening to an audiobook the way my hands are busy and my brain is focused on one thing. It just quiets everything in my head when it gets too loud. Creating something helps because I get something good at the end of my efforts, whereas if I just sat and stressed myself out I'd achieve nothing but making myself sick. I have lots of restless energy when I'm stressed, so crochet has been a lifesaver. Once I get the hang of my pattern I don't need to think about what I'm doing, I just sort of zone out and my hands know what to do. When I'm done I always find the stress is barely noticeable or completely gone because a solution has come to me while my brain hasn't been busy calculating every single way things could go wrong, or I've realized it isn't anything to be worrying about." Educational Owl 8 said, "Meditation. Wash face, get 5-10 minutes alone for myself, and just sit down to analyze where it comes from and how to deal with it. Ask if that will matter in 5 years. If it doesn't I just mentally label it as it is what it is. Some days be like that. I will do the best I can, and that's all to be done, so yeah. And do some breathing exercise to calm and move on. I repeat that thought in my mind if I feel it coming again. Take a walk in nature or walk play with my dog. He is my best stress relief medicine." D. Edit. Fixing typo. Not Turkey said, "To get rid of stress I do multiple things. Game. Always feels good to game with the boys. Exercise with music. It's good for your health and the music motivates you to forget the stress. Go out downtown with friends. What a feeling when you go get French tacos with your friends and after that go explore the city, make memories. Generally speaking, be with someone reduces anxiety and stress. Go out with your motorcycle or your normal bike. Great choice to take your bike and go explore spots that you wouldn't have explored without a motorcycle bike. Skate. Very good choice to have adrenaline and just chill. And last but not least, eating. Is what a great thing to eat good food with the people you love to just relax and think about how life is good with food. Name. Honorable mentions: watch YouTube, look at memes, play Forza Horizon, Microsoft Flight Simulator, talk to girlfriend, boyfriend, or crush. These are my ways of just chilling and forget about stress. That means the final fucking exams called brevet to colleges that I passed with 17/20 on average. And if you're concerned about not finding things to divert your attention from stress, don't worry, you'll find some at one point. Semicolon. Kelsier Knight said, "In books I would say Games of Thrones, Brandon Sanderson Mistborn Collection, The Choices of Shadow by Brent Weeks, Joe Abercrombie Serving Cold, Orson Scott Card The Ender Strategy, for example. I would also recommend books of Machiavelli on politics and on the Romans-Carthaginians Wars, very interesting. In games, I am replaying Pillars of Eternity, which is a great RPG like Baldur's Gate. I played the Cold Steel series. It's a JRPG, very different but strong characters and story. I also play Door Kickers. It is a very tactical game like SWAT games. Well, there is a lot." Congested Man said, "I have been stressed for years. Nothing's ever really worked to help. Relaxing music with distinct rhythm, that is liquid drum and bass, usually chills me out temporarily. I tried THC for the first time earlier this year and it's been one of the best things I've ever done. If interested, I definitely recommend Delta 8 THC. It's not as potent as D9 but it's federally legal if you're from the US for the time being. Will still show up as THC on drug tests. And if smoking, vaping, isn't your thing, there are edibles or straight up capsules which are great. You do have to be 21 to purchase it though." 8 Dogs in a Trench Coat said, "Going for a drive alone always helps, though I rarely do it. Sometimes it's silent, sometimes I blast the music, sometimes I talk to myself. My other go-to is writing. I'm way better with words than I am with other forms of thought and expression, and keeping a private journal has been really fruitful and calming. Going hard at the gym helps too. I don't do it nearly as often as I should, but semi-regular exercise helps keep my mental illness symptoms, especially the anxiety, easier to manage, and for acute stressors, going hard makes me concentrate on one, non-stressy thing. B, makes me feel like I am doing something, and C, tires me out. I mean, not gonna lie, I spent a long time trying to deal with stress with lots of kinds of bad coping mechanisms, substances, games, oversleeping, overworking, risk-taking, etc. And those are still a temptation sometimes. I clearly don't have all my shit figured out. I just am finding I feel a lot better when I am actively involved in managing that stress instead of avoiding it. Marty Parr said, "Listen to music. I'm always listening to music, and it's great for all sorts of situations and feelings. The other day, I bought the Buffy the Vampire Slayer soundtrack, and it took me right back to when I first saw it on television. I rewatched it a few years ago, and while I only liked about 20% of the episodes, the music was still familiar, and so when I saw the soundtrack in a charity shop for £1, I had to pick it up. I was quite shocked at how many of the songs I knew the words to still, even though I last heard the soundtrack on cassette over 20 years ago. It's been added to my phone, something that doesn't happen to all my albums, as not all of them are suitable for listening while I'm out and about. Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds is one example of a D I have ripped at home that isn't on my phone. To be critical of the soundtrack, it's the sort of rock where the bends have white lines painted on them. I still reckon Hepburn were told to put on an accent in the studio, and as singing and talking are form different parts of the brain, they end up sounding like Drusilla. They certainly don't sound like they are actually from London, even though they are. I'd have to be in a desperate musical to actively see any of the bands live, but for some reason it has a non-nostalgia-based endearing quality about it. Possibly because it is so middle of the road. It's not shit, and while it's not good, it's not bad enough to be unlistenable. There are artists from the same era I tolerate for the same reason. They are crap, but the reason I thought I liked them was because they weren't offensively bad. Marty Parr said, "I used to think I liked quite a few bands, but after discovering Iron Maiden and the subsequent bands that path led me down, I realized that I just tolerated them, and none of them made me feel great in the same way as bands like Nightwish do. I also realized along the way there's a lot of people who have zero interest in seeking out new music themselves and will like what they are told to like by the radio stations, many of which are controlled by advertising companies, and it's no coincidence a lot of current music features heavy advertising within it. It's a bit mucky for my liking, and there's a lot of cozy relations between artists, record companies, and advertisers." Rovian said, "Play Dark Souls. Usually by the time I reach Ornstein and Smough I worked out my problems. If that is not an option, enjoy the strange exhilaration that can come with stress. I know it sounds strange, but if you firmly believe that you can and will get it done, it can be rather exhilarating. Also, maybe just pull your camera out and start venting to your camera like you were in a BTS documentary. Depending on what you're doing, maybe even make one. Just imagine how great the drama will be once you translate your stress to an intense sequence in that video." Artemis 1860 said, "Music. I choose a song to mimic my feelings and funnel them all into it. Then choose how I want to feel and try to absorb it within by meditating upon it. I also make playlists as like an on-off switch for myself to set my mindset when going somewhere, and then another as a return to normal when going home. Video games. I use these as an escape from reality but limit my time so I don't overindulge. Writing. Another form of escapism to indulge in the stories of others. I don't set time limits on these, however. The above are my top 3 coping mechanisms for my stress overall. As someone with PTSD and other issues, they can become vital for day-to-day life." What Fictionist he said, "If I'm not in bed, I try to go outside. Somewhere where there's a little nature. Even just a patch of grass works. A good sleep habit is a major factor in stress reduction for me. If I'm in bed and I start getting anxious, I try to catch myself in the thought pattern. And then I have a little conversation in my head where I remind myself that I'm telling a bad story and I should tell a better story that is just as likely to come true. This calms me down and I can then fall asleep." Life Shaving said, "So, for this technique you only need a few things. First, you'll need a ceiling fan. Second, you'll need a chair. Alright, now that you have these things, all you need to do is turn on your ceiling fan and stand on the chair, and then you get in a good crouching position and jump at it. This should result in enough force to knock you out, and boom, stress gone. If you don't get knocked out, do it again, and if the fan breaks, any solid wall will do. Although this technique does tend to cause some stress afterwards if you live in America due to medical bills. I have me said. Speaking as someone with chronic anxiety, sometimes can't get rid of stress. You work through stress. First, you accept that what you're feeling is valid. It's not stupid or unreasonable to feel the way you do. Then, I try to ground myself. This is a feeling, and it doesn't have to stop me from doing things. Then I just move through the feeling. When I start to accomplish things, the anxiety starts to go away, or at least dim. By doing simple tasks and grounding myself, I prove that my anxiety doesn't have to stop me from doing things. I am capable. Like my good friend Winnie the Pooh said, you're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. Aquilina said. Short-term versus long-term. Short-term stress such as an overwhelming amount of tasks at work all at once or something, I will sit down and drink some water and not look at my phone or anything. Just sit still and relax. Long-term stress such as a buildup of stress from a long week or something, I like to take a day and wake up better 3 hours later than I do on working days. Hydrate. Eat a decent meal. Then go on a hike to tire myself out a little bit. Then when I get home I clean and try and watch a movie or drink a beer and relax.